Ben Askren versus Jake Paul. What's your take on that fight? I mean, I know we could talk for days on it. We don't have to get into a big discussion, but what's your take on who do you think is going to win that fight and how that's going to go down? Because it seems to be changing. Jake's putting a lot of footage out where he's looking pretty scary. Ben's being pretty chill and composed, but he's an Olympic-level fighter who always manages to win fights and competitions, and he's taken 4-ounce strikes from some of the best of them, Douglas Lima, Robbie Lawler. So what do you think? What's going to happen in this fight?
It's just boxing?
Just boxing, which makes it more scary for Ben. But again, he's been hit with 4-ounce gloves with some of the most dangerous guys in the world and not managed to get knocked out. I mean, a flying knee you can't count. That's gonna cause him to lose a fight in a bigger glove. You know what I mean? A knee when you're running forward and the other guy's running forward, hitting your face. There's not a man in the world that wouldn't have got knocked out by that knee. So he's never been knocked out other than that. He's fought a lot of guys and he's hard to hit. And he has footwork. It's wrestling, but he does have footwork. He knows how to move and get in on people and get out away from people.
2 or 3 minute rounds.
I think it's going to be 3 minutes, I think. So like 3 minutes, I believe.
3 minutes.
So he's not going to get tired, that's for sure. Ben Askren, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it is really interesting. I think that Jake did a good job of, as far as surrounding himself with the right people, getting the right trainers, making sure that he's actually putting in the work. So I give him, hats off for him for doing that. But there really isn't anything that you can substitute for time spent. You know what I mean? Like time spent inside the actual octagon, inside the actual cage. And Ben Askren is like a lifelong competitor, as a combat sport competitor.
Athlete, yeah.
And so I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. What do you think? Who do you think is going to win? You're going for Ben, aren't you? It sounds.
I think the whole MMA community is going for Ben because as much as Jake is talking now, can you imagine if he beats an MMA champion? Like it's going to be, and of course he picks one that has the least amount of boxing experience possible, that has the highest accolades in the sport as far as what he's done in other organizations in the Olympics, and then drags him into a boxing match where, he has very little boxing training. I think it's a cowardice move on his part, but smart because he, at the end of the day, he can say he beat an MMA champion if he wins. So of course I'm going for Ben because I'm going for MMA community because I don't want to hear the wrath of Jake. But I will say that if he...
Sports. It's boxing and MMA are completely different sports. It's like soccer versus football. They're absolutely two different sports. You do different stances. You have different cadence. You have different rhythm. You have different, strategy. It's a cage versus a cage versus a ring. So there's so many different things. You really can't do much level changes, which is what Ben is so good at. The level changes and the explosiveness and. In boxing, it's a lot of stand your ground, 6-7 punch combinations and angling off and understanding the ring. So it is a completely different sport. I understand what you're saying as far as it being kind of a cowardice move. So yeah, I'll root for Ben. I wouldn't just say for the MMA community, but just for a professional athlete community, Jake Paul, he's a YouTube influencer.
Yeah, he's just starting in this sport or sports combat.
Yeah, but also hats off to him for shooting for the moon, because if you're just starting, you kind of want to get your feet wet a little bit and and build your record and get some ring time. And he's just no, we're going for it,
Yeah, and I think the stuff he's putting out is scary. He looks good. He has potential for sure if he continues on. But I am going for Ben, and I'm going to pick Ben because I think what you said, that mental fortitude and that ability to find a way to win in every type of sport that he's done, and he's an Olympic-level athlete in wrestling, which is the mental fortitude you have to do to be a good wrestler is so hard, and then do it in the Olympics is a whole nother level, and his conditioning is going to be good. He's not going to quit, and he can dirty box, and I think he can get in on people. So he has the footwork to get in on people because he goes and takes them down all the time, and everyone that fights Ben knows he's going to take him down, and they spend 3 months trying to avoid it, and they cannot avoid Ben getting in on them every single time. So key to victory here, I think, is getting in on Jake, making it a dirty, grindy fight for the first couple rounds, hanging on him, going dirty boxing, wearing him out, not taking those long punches from the outside, hoping Jake gets tired. And you think about it, as we've seen this before, but these guys that aren't experienced, it's not their cardio, it's the adrenaline and the panic. They've never been the distance before, so they can train the cardio all they want. They're going to be zapped until they have the experience to dig deep and go on after several fights. Not against YouTubers in the first round. I'm talking like legitimate fights. So he's going to get tired, and he's going to wind down, whether he's in shape or not, just from the adrenaline alone, if that fight goes into rounds 2 and 3. And I think that's where Ben can capitalize. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but I think it could be a situation where Ben is going to outstrike him and beat him up from the dirty boxing, grind him down, and then just after he gets tired, he's just going to overwhelm him with probably not so perfect striking, but it'll be enough, and it's just Jake will just be exhausted and tired of getting, and it may be a stoppage. So that's how I think it could possibly go down. Or Jake Paul lands a crazy hard punch before Ben can get in and knock him out somehow. And one of those two ways is how I think it's going to go down.
Yeah, keep your hands up and close the distance. I think that's a great game plan for Ben. And like you said, the adrenaline jump, I don't think nobody can really anticipate it. It really does kind of, it's like you get a visit from the Sandman. Your arms feel like freaking. Yeah. They feel like heavy old weights I remember feeling that way when I first started fighting and just not understanding, like, why can't they're like, keep your hands up. I'm like, I can't, they're so heavy. Yeah.
And the difference is like people realize like, okay, that, he's got bigger gloves on, but Jake has bigger gloves on. I mean, Ben has bigger gloves on too. And all these guys that he's knocking out in training and all these guys he knocked out that are YouTubers and stuff, they're swinging. They're wildly swinging from the start, keeping their chins open, right? If Ben keeps his hands up, he's got huge gloves too to block himself. I mean, how is he going to get knocked out if he's got these huge boxing gloves covering up his chin and he just goes in and gets close every time? It's not like he's going to be throwing these wild punches and leaving his chin open. He's not going to go box him like that. And I think that's something Jake's not considering. If he does keep his hands up, it's like one of the Muhammad Ali and George Foreman fight. You know what I mean? He just covered up and took George Foreman's best punches for round after round after round after round.
Real quick, with Mike Swick.